Hey, everybody. Welcome. Tactical Tuesday. We've got a good one for you. A lot of you guys already know our guest. A lot of you have dealt with him, talked to him, learned from him for so long. But tonight we are going to be talking to Brian Banks of Freedom Vest. Now, Brian, if you don't know him, you're going to know him tonight, and you really, really need to get to know him. He is a pro with basement suites. And, you know, that seems to be what everyone is having to do these days. Basement suites all over the place. Doesn't seem to matter the market anymore. Used to be there were certain markets that had, basement suites, or but it can be called duplexing a house, duplexing a semi-detached, duplexing a duplex. Just depends on what area of the country you're watching from. So welcome, guys. Say hi as you come on. I see a few familiar faces. We got sweet Angie, of course. Always Danuja. Hello. Kevin, Crystal, Eric. Hey, guys. We've got all kinds of investors from all across Canada. So if you're looking to invest in Canada, guys, we got all the way out from Yarmouth, so near Halifax, Saskatoon, Ottawa. There we go. We got our biggest fans, I think, maybe some of our biggest fans. Essetino artists. Okay, so Joan and Gord, awesome. Thanks, guys, all for joining us. So there we go. If you get it, Crystal, you'll get this. You'll get it. You're going to suite this house. So all of this stuff is so important. Brian's going to walk us through some of the worst parts of investing in basement suites, converting basement suites. Some of the hardest parts about it, some of the things that surprise us the most as investors are first 1 or 2, even 3 times doing it. He's our resident expert. He's an Ignited member. He's been a long-time investor, quite a few years now. We're going to let him introduce himself. But lots of good stuff that Brian's going to bring to us tonight. So, alrighty. There, we got all the way to Moncton, Tennyson, Ontario, more Ontario. Ooh, yeah. And Nadine and Kevin moving to St. Albert. How exciting. So crazy. All right. Thank you, Sarah. I'm having hair issues. That's okay, though. Thank you. All right, here we go. Brian, hey.
Hey, how's it going? Hi, everybody.
So for those of you that don't know, Brian, this is the face that you can put to the name. Brian is with Freedom Vest Properties. As you can see his logo in the background there. And Brian's a longtime investor. Tell us, Brian, what you've been up to in investing. And then we're going to talk a little bit how you got to be an expert in basement suites.
Okay, wow. Well, thank you. Thank you, first of all, for having me. I really appreciate being here, and great to be involved in Tactical Tuesday. So we'll just quickly go back, a quick high-level overview. In short, I bought my first property when I was 18 years old, and I became an apprentice carpenter at 18 years old. So this goes back to 2004, and that's really where my construction and real estate journey began at 18 years old. So did the whole house hacking thing long before, I even knew what it was. So that's kind of where the start came from. And it, it's been kind of 20 years, I guess, of progression. So
you're getting old, Brian. You're getting old.
Yeah, we're the ripe old age of 37 now.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, and happily married, 2 little babies. So awesome. Your wife Larissa is a realtor, helps you in your investments. Oh yeah. Oh, I bet that's beautiful. I can't see it quite.
Always got him here with me.
Yeah, there you go. So, okay, so you started with house hacking many years ago. You were 18 years, old. 20 years later, you're more deliberate in real estate. You're now a full-time investor. You specialize in basement suites. You started specializing in that for yourself. So tell us about your journey into basement suites.
Sorry, the journey through basement suites. So
yeah, into basement, like how did you end up doing your first one, for example?
Yeah, so I leaned on my strengths, and that's how I started of being a carpenter, a journeyman carpenter, being in construction, having a past general contracting business doing residential, hundreds of renos, new builds. So my entry into real estate and then actually full-time real estate since 2017 has been leaning on the construction background, the construction strength and experience that allowed me to get into actually my shift or my transition was utilizing the contracting skills to start building basement suites and actually doing that work. Being the contractor, being the general contractor, and renovating these units with the intention to add a legal basement suite, convert it into a 2-unit property, and for long-term buy and hold.
Do you always do it legal, or do you sometimes keep it non-conforming, let's call it, not necessarily legal or illegal, depends on the area you're in, but do you always go in with doing them conforming always?
So the short answer is yes, always conforming, and no, nothing outside of only legal. So we don't play in any gray areas. We build solid, we build to last, we build from the ground up, and that's what we focus on. Just long-term, durable, sustainable
Okay.
legal suites. Yeah.
Awesome. So when we did, when we got into basement suites, our basement suites, we bought them usually as is, as kind of existing, and then we just kind of fix them up a little bit. So lipstick and rouge, new appliances, a little bit, sometimes some little bit of renovation, and we rented ours non-conforming because back in the day that was okay. It became pretty apparent pretty quick that the issues between neighbors upstairs and downstairs, because we didn't have conforming soundproofing. That was an issue. Fire issues, windows not being big enough. We had one place that we had people living in the basement. We knew they were living them in the basement as bedrooms, but we didn't know that was actually a liability issue for us as investors. So
huge.
Yeah, huge. We never knew. We were brand new investors. We got into these properties. We were just like, okay, well, obviously it's been a suite before. So we're going to talk about some of those things that are really super important that have come along. And we're really going to talk about some of the surprises, the things like, nowadays everyone knows, well, you got to have windows big enough for people to get out. Okay, we were dumb. We didn't know that. But there's a few things along the way that most investors don't know about that can really get us in trouble. And we're going to ask you for your best money saving tips. So let's hit it, Brian. What would you say are like just your top one right now thing that surprises investors the first time that they do a legal conforming suite? What's one of the biggest things that kind of jumps out at them as like, wow, we didn't know that and wish we'd known?
Yeah, good question. I would say I'm just rethinking my order here of the. I would say actually underestimating the cost and the amount of work that is required and associated with actually building a legal basement suite. Yeah. It's an undertaking.
So ours went first legal suite. I think it went about $30,000 over budget because we made the mistake that you're saying don't do, and we underestimated the cost right away. So generally speaking, and I know, you have a course out that teaches us this kind of stuff, how to calculate all that, how to get all your quotes, all that kind of thing. But generally speaking, what are we looking at for suite costs? And is it by region, or how does that work?
It will be different wherever you go, your geographical location. But a general idea would be, I would say, because it is a wide range and there's lots of different factors and variables that can play into the cost of developing a legal basement suite. So I would say just roughly high level, $75 a square foot up to maybe $95 or more per square foot.
Okay.
So that can kind of give you an idea. If you have a 1,000 square foot basement, which typically a lot of these bungalows, we don't actually want to go less than 1,000 or 1,025 square feet because we want to fit a 2-bedroom suite. So in say that gives us the room to fit a 2-bedroom suite. So say in 1,000 square foot or a 1,050 or 1,100 square foot, that's anywhere $75,000, $80,000 to $100,000.
Yeah. Okay. So
right there.
I was talking to someone just the other day, a neighbor of mine, and they said they were going to put a suite in their basement, and they figured they were going to put about $15,000 to $20,000 in. And I was
Yeah.
like, and I talked to an investor the other day too, albeit a newer investor, but still, saying like, oh, well, I did my personal residence for about 35 to 50, maybe 50-ish. But when we're doing legal suites, what's the difference in pricing? Because I know $15,000, we put in about 25
Yeah.
in our personal home for my parents' suite. Um, what's different in a legal suite that makes it so much more expensive?
So what we call right there is the big three. What we call is the big three trades. So the big three installations, which is your plumbing and gas, your HVAC, and your electrical.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
between those big three, we call them, those are your big three subcontractors that you're working with when you're building a suite. Now, right off the top, I mean, that's to be conservative and go lightly, that's 10,000, 10,000, 10,000.
Okay.
Right there, there's, easily. So that's kind of what differentiates a
Yeah.
legal suite is there's all the components that come with each one of those
Yeah.
big three. So
Yeah.
we
So
talk
that
two
right there,
furnaces.
that's the difference.
Sorry.
That's the difference right there. So we can go from having a $50,000 suite, put in, you think kitchen, bathroom, all that kind of stuff, sure. But now all of a sudden we're jumping into having those three big trades and doing them properly and having everything permitted and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And that adds on $30,000 just right there.
Yeah, to make it conforming and legalize it, you have to meet code. There's a secondary suite code to follow, and the inspectors are making sure, with this going through permitting in the city, the inspectors are making sure those are up to code and that it is conforming to a legal basement. And
Absolutely.
that's what you need to get before you get what's called an occupancy permit, before you can actually legally rent it out and have a tenant occupy the unit, the suite.
So an occupancy permit is not just for new builds, like I thought it was for years. It also is for new suites that have become legally conforming.
Absolutely. Yes. There's development permits involved, there's building permits involved, and the whole inspection process for it to become a legal secondary suite, a legal basement suite. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
some surprises are cost. Absolutely. Some surprises are, having to do these, you know, multiple steps. We know what they are, but we think of it as a simpler process. So, what else
Mhm.
is a surprise, Brian, that a lot of people end up learning the hard way?
So that all kind of goes hand in hand with underestimating the cost of the suite and also going over budget. Another one would be to overestimate what's called the ARV. So the after repaired value. So if we're gonna project that when we're done our suite, it's gonna be worth X amount of dollars, and it comes in actually lower than that, that's a problem. Especially when you go over budget on your construction. Now you have a compounding compounding effect of going over budget and coming in under your ARV, and now all of a sudden your cost is at retail price, and you can go off the street and buy that from the MLS. And what's the whole point of doing it?
Right. Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. So, like ratios wise. So let's say that I'm putting in that, let's just use like a lower end number. So let's say like
Yeah,
80,000 for a basement suite to legalize it. Um,
yeah.
what do I expect as an investor to get back from an after repaired value appraisal? I've put in
Mhm.
80. Am I expecting at least 80 more? Am I expecting more than that? Or what am I expecting in my ARV?
You can expect somewhere in the ballpark of, let's say, you can get your renovation costs back, so your $80,000 per se, but your original down payment, maybe to purchase the property, might be stuck and left in the deal after you refinance out. So let's just for say your all-in cost when you buy a property and you renovate it and add a suite, you're somewhere in the mark of 400,000, or let's say 400 to 420,000 all in cost. And your ARV, your after repaired value, is somewhere in the 450 to 475, let's say, range. So
Okay.
when you go to refinance at that higher value, say at 450, your new mortgage is 80% of that,
Yeah.
and you deduct that from your cost of 400,000 or 420, and you're left in, typically, I mean, it kind of works out to what the 20% down payment is when you first initially purchase the property before you renovate it. So,
Okay.
anywhere from 40, 60, 40 to 60, right?
Okay, so generally speaking, you can plan to get your money back out of it, but it's not like you're doing a basement suite to make money on the upswing right then and there, forced depreciation. You're more doing it to create extra cash flow, have that property carry itself. It will rise in value faster because, of course, it's worth more now. And so as the market rises, but this isn't like a flip kind of strategy where people are, putting extra value into a property, hoping to make more money out. You're pretty much going in even and doing it for cash flow. Am I correct?
You want to capture the forced appreciation and the forced equity. That's the fourth way to win, per se, right?
Mhm.
You have your positive cash flow, you have your mortgage pay down, you have your market appreciation. These are the fundamentals over real estate, globally.
Yeah.
But then there's the value add component, or the highest and best use value add component of actually increasing that equity and capturing that newfound equity that you built in, forcing it up through building a legal basement suite.
Yeah.
So
So
for
I mean,
sure.
it's great. The value goes up, but
Yeah,
I think a lot of investors think that they're going to make money by putting in suites necessarily. Um, Not always the case, but why do we do this? We do this, yeah,
yeah.
all of those things. But this is going to create cash flow for us in a property that perhaps wasn't cash flowing before, or not cash flowing as well.
Absolutely. And Tiff, this is one of the reasons why I absolutely love this topic and income suites, is especially now, maybe even more than ever, it is so important to have a legal suite in either your investment property or even your own home, for owner occupied people but the cost of living today is simply just more today than it was yesterday. you know Mortgages, right? Interest rates, there's a lot of this happening out there. It's, there's fear out there. But how can we hedge against that?
Yeah.
um Positive cash flow. We have an example. We have a property with a variable mortgage. We went from $600 a month cash flow right down to less than 200 or $150 a month cash flow.
Yeah.
Now, it's still supporting itself. It's still cash flowing. It's
Sure.
not nowhere near what it was, but we are still protected.
Huge, yeah, huge difference between $600 a month and 150. So
Yeah.
now if that property didn't have a suite in it and mortgage
Yeah.
payment went up by $500 a month, now what kind of panic do we get ourselves into as investors?
It's a big deal, and I think we'll see a lot of that. Unfortunately, it's just what's going to happen, I think, with the market, right? So, you
So
don't want to be negative.
are you being more conservative on your ARVs right now? This question from one of our audience. Are you being more conservative?
Yeah. So something, Tiffany, that you taught me, and Corey taught me. I mean, we always approach our investing under promising and over delivering.
Yeah.
So I am conservative with my renovation budgets, and make sure that's one of the items that go wrong, and a common mistake. Make sure everything is captured in your budget. You have it there, and you have a contingency. You have maybe 10% of a contingency for newer people. I run with a 5%. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, not on building suites, but since 2014 building suites, in construction, right? So overruns happen. You need to be expecting and protecting yourself for that. So
So you run with a 5% just because you know your game right now, but you
I know,
still, even with you knowing what you're doing, you still run yourself with some little wiggle room. You're saying a newer investor should use at least 10%.
yes,
Okay.
100%.
So you think
Yes.
that if you think it's $75,000, you're
Yeah.
saying on almost 10 grand just to be sure.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right. That's pretty big.
10% would be 100,000. I mean, you're right. So it's $7,500.
Yeah.
Just to
So
have there, just to have there. And you know, we could get into all the budgeting and cost tracking of it, but that's another big mistake is actually tracking your cost
okay.
accurately.
Okay. So let's talk about that then. So
Sure. Yeah.
back to another big mistake that you see investors making. Their first couple or so basement suites conversions,
Yeah.
you see the mistake of them tracking wrong.
Yeah. Not capturing all the cost. Proper, you know, bringing it all in. At any given moment in time, you should know exactly to the penny where you're at and what you spent or what you burnt and what your projects cost you at any day, any moment. And then the total at the end, exactly what the total is. And we break it. Yeah.
So how do you do that? I know in your course, I'm sure that there's tools to do that, but give us kind of an outline of what that looks like. What, how does that work? What kind of things would
Sure.
you be doing?
I'll try to explain it as simply as I can. But what we have, and it is a resource in our course, and what we provide to our students is our budget and cost tracking sheet. So
Okay.
it gives you the from the front. This is your Bible. This is you use this on your project from start to finish and every right through. So on the front end, you're creating your budget, and you plug in what you think your suite's going to cost. And if you need to get quotes, if you need to dig in, if you need to do some due diligence and understand the cost, absolutely take the time to do that. We have our costs pretty dialed in and controlled, so we build our budgets, and now we're tracking against our budget. As we start and build out our project, in our budget we have multiple different what's called cost codes. So
Okay.
there's a chart of accounts, and everything has a cost code associated to it. And even under a main, let's just say interior finishes, there might be, flooring under that, right? But flooring will have a cost code. So
Yeah.
anything that we spend or cost on flooring gets coded to the flooring cost code. So you can easily see from your budget, you budgeted, let's just throw a number out, let's just say $4,000 on flooring. When we track and cost code accurately and properly with our data entry on our job, we can see if we're coming in at 3,500 or 2,000 over and above.
Are you doing that every day? So at the end of every day, you come in and you put all your receipts in according to that code?
At minimum Fridays. So like in my business, we kind of have like what's called a financial Friday.
Oh
So
yeah.
we reconcile everything on Fridays and because daily you can do it daily. It's
A
a
lot.
bit to maintain,
Yeah.
kind of like our joint venture performance reporting, right?
Yeah.
Annually we do it semi-annually, but it becomes cumbersome and a lot of work if you're doing it quarterly or monthly, right?
So weekly is a good shot, and basically you're in real time knowing as you go. So you're not waiting till the end of your project to know, oh crap, we spent, whatever, 12
Exactly.
carpeting when we plan to spend 8.
Exactly. And it helps you make mentally those calculated decisions. If we see that we've already spent, like we don't have budget left in something, like we're going to go over, where maybe we don't want that shiny tile, or you can adjust,
Or maybe we don't have
or
that choice anymore now because we overspent on the flooring. Now we have to go simpler with the backsplash or whatever it may be.
and here's why we have our 10% contingency budget, because the contingency budget also has its own cost code. So if I want to buy this pen and it's over my budget, I can code it to the contingency cost code and
Oh,
throw it in that bucket of money in that budget if
okay.
we want to.
So
But
your contingency is also tracked on a weekly basis. So you also know how far over budget you're getting in certain spots.
yes.
Yeah, nice. I like it. Okay, so if you're looking at properties with existing non-conforming suites, do you how do you approach budgeting? Is it exactly what you just said? Is it the same as if you're starting fresh, or do you start with a minimum number in there? How do you do it?
Yeah. So there's different ways to do it. Now, there is set prices and standards and costs for everything. So how do we know that, right? I know that, and I've tracked this and built this over many years. But someone coming in green and not knowing, we need to rely on our power team. That's it. I mean, we need to bring in first of all, somebody that's coming in that's got no construction experience, no construction knowledge. It's a big deal to take on a basement suite job. So I would highly recommend for those people to hire and work with a reliable, a dependable, a quality, trustworthy general contractor.
Okay. Okay, let's say you're in Edmonton area, that's where you've done suites. That's what the pricing, So you're saying if you're in, Ajax, Ontario,
Yeah.
uh, you're going to work with a general contractor. Now, adding that into budget, how much will that add to a budget
Mhm.
for a basement suite?
So it's interesting. So I take a little bit of a different approach maybe to this also is I look at and this is what helped me go full time in real estate and help
Okay.
me transition from contractor to investor.
Okay. This is
I
going to be
approach I approach every project. The renovation cost is the renovation cost is the renovation cost. Whether I'm doing it or whether Joe Schmo contracting is doing renovate this basement suite, there's still that cost component to the project and budgeted for the project. So whether I'm doing it, there's the whole sweat equity thing, and that's great. I recommend it for people maybe starting out, and that's how I started. I did everything on our first basement suite. I was in there, I was doing everything. I did all the work. It cost us $54,000 just straight of cost, not even my time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot where we're going here now with this was
Whether you're budgeting in for a general
yeah,
contractor to be paid or not, you're saying the costs are going to
right,
be the same, and then you're going to budget in for a contractor because regardless,
right.
there's going to be the extra cost, whether that's your time or someone else's.
Exactly. And what's the cost to manage the project? Because you need somebody to oversee and manage the project to take it from point A to point B, from no basement suite to a fully finished basement suite ready to rent. And
Okay, so Brian, I'm thinking that's going to be like $15, $20, $25,000. No,
yeah,
am I
yeah,
off?
yeah. You can expect 15% minimum
15%. Okay, there we go.
on
15%.
top of.
Okay.
wh-
Cool. Let me ask you something though, and I'm not trying to
Yeah,
push your course, but
okay.
your course is, I don't know, a couple $1,000s or whatever it is.
Yeah.
4,000. I don't know how much your course is, but anyways, what I'm getting at is, let's say your course is 10 grand. It's not, but let's say it was. I'm now adding 15%. Now I'm, adding 15 grand to my bill. Could I just get your course, get all the tools that I need, and have
Mhm.
do you offer, are you then part of their power team after that, they can consult with you and ask you those kinds of questions? And would that be a safer way to go than trying to do it on your own? Because a $25,000 bill may
Yeah.
take out all profit from anyone
Yeah.
doing it and
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
a deal's not going to work, would it just be wiser to do something like that?
It's actually a money saving tip to get the proper education and get the coaching and avoid these mistakes. So
Mhm.
yes, essentially we become part of the power team. So not getting too much into the details of the course, but there is a course product for sale. There's also of what's available as an option is to that product for sale with 6 months of me coaching actually, and what we're tying to that 6 months of coaching is a project, is a legal basement suite project, and that's the reason why it's designed and structured of a 6 month once a week coaching that comes with the program, because to take the student from point A to point B through the basement suite course, sometimes it will take a little bit extra effort, and guidance and support with that, because
Oh yeah.
there's a lot that goes into it. I'm not going to sugarcoat any of that with no construction knowledge or experience,
Yeah.
there needs to be some support here for sure.
Okay,
Mhm.
awesome. So I mean, we've talked about 15% on top for general contractor. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to add in a 10% kind of fail safe
Mhm.
of your costs. If you think it's going to be so much, you're going to add 10% on. We've heard that we want to have a basement suite of at least 1,025 feet, so you can get two suites in there, or two bedrooms in there.
Yeah, bedroom.
Um,
Yeah.
Big tip, and that's a lot of, I think, things that sometimes people don't realize, is that second bedroom makes all the difference in basement suites. People say, oh, I had a basement suite and I didn't like it didn't work for me, it was never rented, or it was hard to rent. It is probably one bedroom. That's for the most
Yeah.
part.
So it's the sweet spot. It's a two-bedroom suite is where you have the biggest rental pool, the most appeal to the masses of potential tenants. One bedroom's a little tricky, less people. Three bedrooms, a lot of volume, maybe too many people, too many vehicles parking, maybe a property management. I don't know. I don't want to say nightmare, but
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
challenges.
Yep.
Two-bedroom is the sweet spot. It appeals to everybody, a lot of people. You can get the premium rents. And if you think about it, uh, if anyone's familiar with the 1% rule in real estate, so the purchase price of the property, if you can rent, monthly rent is 1% of that purchase price. That's very good. That's a good quick metric of 1% of the purchase price equals the monthly rent. So if you're building a basement suite for say 80 or $100,000 and you're renting it, we have basement suites renting for 1350, $1,400. So if it's $100,000 basement suite and you're renting it for $100,000 basement suite and you're renting it for $1,000, you're meeting the 1% rule.
Yeah. Yep.
Right?
Awesome.
So
Okay, so I just we'll hit up a couple of these questions here. So are there grants to do this with? And if you just want to let us know, I'm not sure Facebook user who you are, but if you want to let us know what area you're from, we probably can answer that question a little bit more. But Brian, are there grants in different municipalities for stuff like this?
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I'll say two things on that. The city of Edmonton had what was called the Cornerstone Grant, where they did provide grant funding for that in return to building the suite and adding, providing more housing to Edmonton, or so it's this whole density thing and creating more housing units and the housing crisis and all this. So that's what we're actually contributing to and bringing a solution and helping to solve that problem of
Right.
not enough. Canada needs 17,000 units right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. so
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 what you're saying is governments, municipalities, all kinds of nonprofit organizations. Everyone is on board to say, we all want this to happen, and if you're the person that's going to do it, we're willing to find ways that we can support you in that,
yeah.
depending on your municipality.
Depending, yes.
Mhm.
Now, and not to say CMHC has these programs, but CMHC is really advocating for higher density, like anything multi-unit,
Yeah.
right? So, and there's programs through CMHC, funding, construction funding, take out mortgage funding. These are more in multi higher density multi-unit. I mean, we're developing townhomes with basement suites now, new construction, new developments,
Yeah,
still with basement suites. So again, that density. So
for
that's
sure. I didn't realize that they had suites in them as well.
yeah.
For this question, do I have to do this every week? I have a feeling this was to do with budgeting. And
Mhm.
Crystal, who's a flipper in Central Alberta, says it's a must. It's painful, but it's a must.
Yeah.
What do you say, Brian? So they're saying, do I have to do this every week? What if I did it every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks?
Yeah. Let's just at a rule of thumb, like just for starters, just as a blanket statement, guys, tracking your cost is like bookkeeping. Okay, bookkeeping, accounting, tracking your cost is like the most important thing. Like, I mean, it's not the sexy part of it per se, but it's the boring, monotonous, maybe certain types of people, personalities do that, like to do that type of work. But it is so, so important to know and to have that up to date, have it organized. I mean, like I said, a snapshot of where you're at any given moment. So, as a rule of thumb, minimum once a month, but a good practice would be to enter once a week.
Okay, so let me ask you, Brian. So how long would a typical suite take from
Yeah.
beginning to end? How long is this going to take?
Yeah, so I would in today's market, in today's economy, I would budget and bank on 6 months. Um and that's why our coaching program around that is 6 months in duration, to
Yeah.
tie it to a basement suite project, because we want our students to succeed. We want the results, and that result is having no basement suite to having a basement suite ready to rent. And if they choose to that option, to take them through that and ensure their success. Like, we we want their success. That's it. These are the outcomes, the results of taking that program, is having a basement suite ready to rent. So
So if we're talking about 26 months, so like 24 weeks ish, and
yeah, yeah,
if if we are doing our um budgeting, let's say every second week instead of every week,
yeah,
you
yeah.
can see how quickly costs can get out of control. Like, I like
Oh,
your
yeah.
once a week thing because you're only working, like, if as a long-term investor, I've got my property for 20 years, let's say. I'm always
Uh,
thinking 15 to 20 years. So let's say that I've got 15 to 20 years. Well, I miss bookkeeping for a month or two or three or
yeah,
even a year.
mhm,
Well, I'm
yeah,
not that far off. Not a lot is
yeah,
going to change. But when I'm 24 weeks in,
yeah, yeah,
and now I've missed something for a week, or I'm
yeah.
unaware of it. To me, the budgeting part of it, it's like every
Easily.
Friday you become
Yeah,
really aware
yeah,
of where you sit so that things don't get out of control.
easily. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the
Mm.
I like the once a week thing. That sounds awesome.
I'm just speaking from experience, because this is so fast moving. It's so fast paced. I mean, general contracting, doing projects, there's a lot going on, and flying in and out, and you need to control that. You just need to control the cost. It's so crucial.
And part of
Um,
it is knowing where you're at, right? You can't know where you're going if you don't know where you're at. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and you can't measure. You can't measure. You're not tracking. You know, so how, you need that to make the calculated decisions, the smart decisions, right?
you do. So, Brian, you're well known in our community, our Ignited room, as the guy who knows what he's doing, does a great job, serves his partners and investors so, so well. I'm just going to show you some of the love that you've been doing this. So, George
Oh,
out in Halifax says, like, I didn't realize you had a course. And then whoever this is says he's been developing it for 2 years. So, yeah, we know that you've worked really hard on this and brought a lot of,
yeah.
there's so much knowledge. But yeah, lots of love coming in for you from all over the place. Um,
Thank you.
Kevin is asking, does the course outline an order of projects to tackle? So would that be like the order that you do things in and contracts,
Yeah.
that sort of thing?
The whole way that the program is designed is sequential order. So
Okay.
so that's another way to assist the students going through this, is it's a complete step-by-step guide from start to finish. So you don't need to be focusing on the end and getting your final construction cleaning done before you have your design done, and getting your design, your plan, like plan the work and work the plan. So
Yeah.
and then it follows. It's a process. It's a process, and it's a step-by-step process from start to finish in sequential order. So it, it I it's designed that way so that you don't even have to think about what's next.
You know what we should do, Brian, is we should have you on another time and you can actually walk us through your course, your courseware, your coursework, all of that kind of stuff to show us what kind of stuff we don't know that we don't know. Because right now we just want to provide, quality content and get your brain out there into other people so that people can learn from you. But we could arrange, we could plan for that. Mhm.
It's basically one big brain dump, over 20 years, because, like, I mean, from a trade standpoint, I'm a journeyman carpenter, and I mean, I started in 2003 and got my journeyman certificate in 2007 when I was 21 years old.
Mhm.
That's a 4-year program. When we get into the big three trades, the plumbing and gas, the HVAC, and the electrical, those
Mhm.
are also 4-year apprenticeship programs to
Right. Yeah.
become a journeyman electrician and a journeyman sheet metal or HVAC or plumber. Now, in the course, we have expert interview series, an expert panelist of each one of those big three trades,
Mm.
talking all about basement suites, everything from rough in to finishing. And I mean, when you look at and put it in perspective of 4 years of schooling and training, practical theory knowledge and practical on the job training, there's a lot combined into this, that
There's
to develop a basement suite. And there's lots of intricacies and unique little variables and factors to it. So
there's a lot. Okay, what are some other things that we need to get into people? So we have some surprises. You have some good rules of thumb, bringing the basement suite down to like the 1% rule. Brilliant. Budgeting,
um,
all that, square footage, pricing, that sort of thing. So what else
yeah.
do we need to know?
I'm gonna call this, because this is one of the modules in the program, is securing the property.
Okay.
This might be overlooked a little bit, but securing the property from the inside out to protect the investment from water infiltration.
Mm,
So from the top down, well, let's go from the ground up. That's how we build. We build solid foundation. So from the ground up, inside the foundation, when your whole basement stripped out and demoed, and you have your foundation walls, the concrete walls completely exposed,
yeah.
this is the time to go through and assess those walls and make sure any cracks are dealt with, any structural
Mhm.
cracks are dealt with, any repairs required. The last thing you want to do is go spend $80,000 developing a legal basement suite with foundation cracks in it, and the grading outside is not positive drainage with the proper slope, and it's negative. It's in the house, and in springtime the snow melts, and it all comes into your basement
Yeah,
after
yeah.
spending $80,000. This
Right.
happened. The other thing is the sewer line, the main sewer line, the main sewer scoping. When you're going to buy your property, doing your due diligence, scoping, taking the time and the investment of the cost to do a mainline sewer scope, which is a camera that goes down your main line and it checks out, your main $300, checks out your main line. And does your main sewer line need to be replaced at that time before you build your suite, or is it good? And you can kind of work with that as well, in your negotiating, with offers and stuff like that. But one thing I will say with the mainline sewer, a big tip that I learned the hard way
Yeah.
was,
Yep.
was a sewer line that collapsed, a sewer line that failed in a property. So it basically, after World War II, there was called an Orangeburg pipe that's basically cardboard, and it basically just collapses and crushes because it's cardboard over time. So that causes a backup and a mess and an inconvenience in the suite. So, but they can replace that, but that's a $10,000 bill, and drill through a new line. If you have service line coverage, that's the main thing here. I learned this the hard way. Service line coverage for your
Like
main sewer line
on your
with
insurance policy?
your insurance policy.
Okay.
I think
Heard
it's
that.
getting a little bit tough to find now.
Okay.
I don't know if it's because they're, onto it, per se, but we had service line coverage on that property that had that issue. It was $10,000 to do the work, and we were faced with $1,000 deductible bill,
Nice. Nice.
right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you want to make sure,
So
check your insurance.
I like what you said about, like, before you build your suite. So when I think about your suite, I'm not thinking about grading. I mean, I kind of am a little bit, but I'm not thinking about my sewer lines. I'm thinking like everything's been
Yeah.
working fine as it is
Yeah.
with 2 extra people living there. You're saying
Yeah.
that's one thing that you should just take care of while everything is fresh and open and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I like it. I just have to keep on adding these cuts to Corey. I don't know if it's Sean Carney, the first one, or if this is so. And I think this is Mike. It's not Corey. Mike's got Corey's phone, I'm sure. But anyways, everyone's like
We
slamming Corey.
got some chirping. Yeah.
Yeah, got some chirping going on for sure. Okay, so let's see if did I miss any questions. I don't know if I missed any questions here. I think we're good. So what else do we need to know? Sewer lines, check your grading, check for your cracks in your foundation before putting in all your pretty finishes. Get that insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so many gems here tonight. So yeah, what else do we need? Yeah, water is our worst enemy, Corey.
Yeah. So grading, like, I mean, to approach a property, if you're looking to purchase a property, like, the first thing, just take that step back, just from a high level. When you approach the property from the driveway, from the sidewalk, just kind of, high level, 30,000-foot view, bird's eye view, and just, assess that property, have a good look from above, top down, scan the property, walk around, do that full assessment. The grading is so important. Like, a lot of times, and with grading, we need to use clay. There's clay and there's topsoil, black dirt. That's what we use for sod on top of the rough grading, which is the clay.
Right.
The clay is what packs and what seals the ground and drains water. If you're going to fill up a bunch of topsoil, black dirt next to a foundation and think that's going to drain water out, I'm sorry. It doesn't work.
We learned that one the hard way. We bought a brand new house. Well, not brand new. It was like a year old when we bought it. And yeah, they had used just topsoil for all the
Yeah.
grading. We didn't do any clay foundation. We had to
No
pull it
good.
all out and redo it all. And it
Yeah.
was in place. So
Yeah.
yeah,
With all the weeds and everything that grows in it too. Yeah.
yeah, seriously, it was a mess. And
No
it was
good.
just all falling in. And anyways, all right. How about garage suite builds? Is this course advantageous for that as well? A lot of the same principles apply, or what is that?
Mhm. A lot of the same principles apply, and technically the term secondary suite, let's use, like, real estate's an umbrella with lots of different strategies underneath. Let's use secondary suites as an umbrella term, and it includes basement suite. It includes legal basement suites. It includes garage suites. It includes garden suites that maybe is not in a garage. It's just in the backyard of a home where it's just a ground level unit, an additional housing. Garage suites typically above, a garage.
Yeah.
But these are all secondary suites. So the basis and the purpose of our course is specifically focused only on basement suites. Now, with the garage suites, we love garage suites. I've never built one yet. I had one designed and was going to build it. I have a tough time making the numbers work on garage suites.
Yeah.
They are you're essentially building a brand new home. It's completely separate, private, self-contained with all the infrastructure. So it's basically a new home. They are a bit costly to build, and the rents that you fetch from them, when you do a case study side by side as an investment, a lot of times makes a lot more sense to do a basement suite.
Yeah, interesting. Really interesting.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So it's not that it doesn't apply, but
Yeah.
that 9 times out of 10 you end up just diverting back to doing a basement suite. Okay, so Crystal's got a really good question too. Do you have a certain year of build where you wouldn't do a sewer scope, say after the year 2000, or do you always do it no matter what?
I think I would always do it now. Yeah, I just would, just because this is a long-term investment. We're spending a lot of money. We're in it for, 5 years to 10 years. It's $300. Yes. Have it up front in your closing cost, in your inspection cost. Have that up front as your cash to close, all the money that you need to purchase and close on the property. Have that $300 budgeted included. Yes, I would.
it's just, yeah, it's just one of those things that the cost to risk ratio is just so small. It's just worth it.
We talk about sleeping good at night. You know, when you lay down at night, when you put your head on the pillow, are you worrying about a sewer line, or are you sleeping soundly and comfortable and living your investor life?
Right, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
You really, it's those little things that make all the difference. So lots of accolades for what you said too about that, like, does it work for a garden suite, or sorry, a garage suite? Yeah, it might, but a lot of
Mhm.
experienced investors are just saying exactly, yep, Brian, you know all about this. So yeah, all right. So let's see. Oh, there we go. Sorry, wrong one. Have you done a basement suite by jacking up the house before?
No. The same house that I had plans to build a garage suite on, I was going to jack up that house and build a basement suite on as well. That house, I would never buy that type of house again, but it was a bungalow with no basement. We ended up owning it for 13 years.
Yeah,
I
right.
bought that house in 2008. I said I bought my first property at age 18 in 2004. In 2008, I bought my second property, which was that property with no basement. Huge garage, because
Yeah,
I was a general contractor back then, doing doing my bit my general construction business.
yeah,
Um, but at the end of the day, we owned it for 13 years. We rented it the whole time. It didn't go up in value. It didn't cash flow, but the mortgage got paid down over time, and there was equity.
yeah,
We didn't do the garage suite. We didn't lift the house and do the basement, and we let it go and
yeah. But you know what?
traded up.
And trade it up, exactly. And that's what we learn as investors, is having a property that can be suitable at some point, even if you don't do it, now. And even with the multi-generational housing that's massive right now in Canada, like never before. When you're looking even at buying a property, like Brian just said, look at it from a long-term view. Even if you don't plan to hold it, you hold that for 13 years. Well, a suite can make a massive difference in your cash flow during those 13 years, like hundreds of thousands of dollars even. So yeah, Grant has a good point here. Do you want to talk to what he's talking about here?
Be careful on cable length. Many 16 feet, which is nothing. Oh, maybe so for the sewer, the mainline sewer. So I
Yeah,
think the length of the cable that you have to go down, like it might be, you want to get right to the city connection, right to where your main sewer line tees into your city. So you could be 60 to 100 feet away from that point. So you want to I think that's what he's asking. You got to make sure you have the length on that camera and the cost. Is it suitable? The equipment the right tool for the job? I
yes.
guess, right?
And
So
it's true. We've had
yeah,
scopes done before, and then later found out we paid the same amount as, like he said, for a smaller scope line than
yeah,
what we actually needed. But of course, you don't know these things as a new investor. You just think, okay, I paid for the scope, right? But no, no, no.
yeah,
What you need is the one that goes right to, like you said, the city line. So
yeah. And you should get a video. If you're getting this done, you should get a video that you have, and you can, if you're interested, you can actually watch and look what through your main line looks like.
yeah,
Yeah,
nice. I don't want to see that myself, but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
probably worth a view. Okay, Corey's saying, how much does it normally cost on average?
uh 3 to 500, let's say, depending. I mean, the equipment itself is not cheap for inspectors to have. Not every inspector has one either. You might have to get a home inspection done and a separate sewer scope done. So if you
Mm-hmm.
can work with an inspector maybe that provides both services,
Yeah.
one-stop shop type thing. So but it is an extra $300 to $500 in that range.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All
Yeah,
right. So, oh yeah, there you go. Karina's even saying George is talking about the jacking up work. Yeah,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
Karina, yeah, the video. So,
It can make sense. It can make sense for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
all right, what else do we got? What are some money saving tips, Brian? I know you've already given us a few. You've given us a lot of good.
Oh,
I think we have it all, but
let's talk about her windows, I guess. Let's talk about building durable and for long-term sustainability, because it's an interesting one that it does cost more money up front, but in
mm,
the long term, the long run, things like, I'm a huge advocate for quartz countertops. for luxury vinyl plank flooring. These items, borderline in some areas overbuilding, but
Yeah.
we build our suites to that spec and standard because quartz countertops, you can cut on them, you can put a hot pan, a hot pot, a stove, hard to burn them, easy to maintain, staining, things like this. So durable long term. You have a laminate countertop, you put an arborite or a laminate countertop, and one hot pot goes on that or pan, and it's bubbled and it's burnt and it's bubbled, and you're replacing that countertop, and it opens the can of worms, and you get into the tile backsplash, and you don't want that. You don't want.
That's what I was just gonna say. For again some
Yeah.
newbies out there like me,
Yeah.
I think okay, so you have to replace the countertop then. Okay, no, now
Yeah.
you're dealing with the backsplash. Now you have to take the
Yeah.
sink up. Now you have to get a plumber to put the sink back in. Now the
Yeah.
dishwasher has to be moved and reconnected. And do you want to reconnect an old dishwasher, or does that mean a
Yeah.
new dishwasher? And that whole can of worms can be avoided
Yeah.
by building for the long term. But what if you
Yeah.
don't plan to hold the property, Brian?
Still build it. Still build it solid.
Are you
Build it
gonna
solid, build it to last.
Is that
That's it.
you may not make money on that, but will you probably get back the money that you put in on that kind of finishing, generally speaking, between rent, price that you get for sale, all of those things? My opinion would be yes. What is your opinion?
Yeah, yes. We don't sell too many. That's not our strategy. We have sold them in the past. But there's a buyer for everything, and the right buyer, a long-term investor that wants that product will buy that. And if that's what they want, they will pay a premium. I've seen investors, there's a $475,000 suited house and a $425,000 suited house, and they go buy the 475, and it performs a lot better long term.
Well, and you know what? Even for this trend, if we're following trends, guys, basement suites is going to be massive. It's already starting to get hot, and it's going to be massive like never seen
Yeah.
before. And we
Yeah.
are seeing that it's that multi-generational housing. So not only are
Mhm.
investors doing it, and our governments and agencies pitching in for that in the way of grants and everything else, but
Yeah.
where do I want my parents? Where do I
Yeah.
want my kids if they live with me? Do I want them in a nice place
Yeah.
or not in a nice place? So you got to think of
Yeah.
it from
Yeah.
buyer perspective
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Okay, Brian,
Yeah.
one more good hint. I know
Okay.
okay, I promise. We'll have you
Okay.
back. We'll
Okay.
talk about this stuff more. But yeah.
Sounds good.
what do you got?
I wanted to talk about the windows quickly, but if we're running out of time here, one just kind of general blanket thing I would say for saving money, actually, as a business perspective, is to pick one strategy and go all in with it. Go deep with it, learn it, get good at it, systemize it, repeat it, and that is what gets results and makes money and creates success. Is staying away from doing too many things. Pick one thing. If it's basement suites, great. If it's there's a whole bunch of strategies, we won't get it, but pick the one, two at most, but for starters, just one, and it will save money in the long run because you refine it and you improve it and you get better at it, and you're constantly improving and get better, and it does turn a better product and more efficient and more systemized and more effective right through the whole process, and that saves money and that creates results.
It does. Thank you, Brian. Can you believe
Yes.
we're at an hour already? Isn't that insane?
It's crazy. It goes super fast. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. I really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
for sharing.
Yeah.
I just want to really quickly recap some of the things that I got out of this. So I got $75 to $95 per square foot is kind of
Mhm.
average. That's what you guys want to count on. You want to have at least 1,000 square feet or so in most areas. I saw Angie noted that some areas will have different stipulations, but in most areas, that's going to give you a nice spacious suite that has 2 bedrooms, which is your key that you want. You want to build in 10% extra for whatever you're budgeting, just for those extra costs. You want to do your budget every single Friday, Financial Friday that Brian has said. You're bringing it all together every single Friday. 15% for a GC on top of your costs. So all of these things, minimum, yeah. So which is why we should have you back to talk about your course, because right there, that just saves people money, and that's what we're all about, is saving people money, time, and fear, getting rid of fear. And by having someone like you behind them in doing this, taking on their first sweets, that fear goes away. So lots of really good points. Thank you for all of that. We didn't even get to everything that we said we were going to, as always. But we'll have you back. And how do we reach you? Let's say people do want to get a hold of you. How do they reach you?
I would say the best place now to contact me is through my website, actually.
Which is?
Sorry, excuse me. www.freedomvestproperties.com. So that's my business. That's my company, Freedom Vest Properties. freedomvestproperties.com. Basically all the contacts there. You can reach out. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Pretty easy to find me, I think. Hopefully, that's what we want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy Costa Rica and have a blast. And we will see you soon. We'll have you back. Thanks for your time.
We'll see you in Ignited.
You'll see us over for laser. Yes, for sure.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Bye, everyone. Take care.